Thank you, President Janser. Members of the City Council, I wanted to give a quick presentation today on the city's new GIS website. So our existing GIS software that we've had for about 5 or 6 years now served us very well. It's very popular in the community. It gets way over 300, 400, 500 hits a day. There are some complaints with it, though, it being a little bit non-user friendly at times. And people are used to things like Google Maps. It's quite a bit easier to search and pan around, and you can also access that on your phone. So last year's budget, we included the dollars in the engineering budget to purchase the new GIS software. It's made by Esri. That's the industry standard GIS platform company. They can plug their software into just about anything. So from a technology standpoint, that really opens the door for us to provide a good service to our citizens and also to you. As an example, we've recently won a national award from Esri. It's called the Sag Award. And we won that award based on the work that we did for siting the new fire station. The drive time analysis that we had done to help site that and then show those results to the community really put us over the top, and so we won a national award. So I think that just goes to show how well our new staff working with this GIS, how dedicated they are and creative they are, and I want to show you a couple things related to that. So at this time, things are a little bit rough, but as we implement this, we'll eventually try to put something on the splash page, front end of the website, so that it's easy for people to get to. But what I wanted to show you today, it's underneath the city's GIS webpage. You can click this Preview New GIS Site Coming Soon link. This takes you to a series of panels. This is the fire station response time map that was made that we won this national award on. Here, of course, we can see with the two alternative sites what the drive time is for 4 minutes of response time. Something that's a little more dear to the residents' hearts are what construction projects is the city of Minot going to do this year, and how are they going to affect me? We plan on issuing this construction projects map here soon. You can get to it now, and it'll be refined over the next couple of weeks. We have a lot of projects to add to this. We've just added kind of the internal maintenance ones that engineering and public works have designed so far. But this overall map shows you the city. It's real easy to pan around and zoom just like you would on a Google map, for instance. You can come to the different hatched or shaded areas here, find where you live, click on this, and we bring up some information. So who the contractor is, we'll eventually fill in the start date, end dates, who our project manager is at the city, who to call, how to email them. So if you have a specific question, you don't have to call a phone tree to find that out. You can go right to that website, click on this link, and it'll send an email. As these projects start, weekly, our staff will be able to go to these, and as the construction status changes, we'll then be able to update this so when you click on it, you can get the latest information. So whether constituents call you, you want the information, or just anybody from the public wants to know what's going on, they can go to these maps and find that. Now, for instance, if you're a new citizen to town, you might look at this aerial and have absolutely no idea where things are at. That's okay. You can come over here and type in your address, just like you would on a Google map. It'll pan right to your house. Now everyone knows where I live. But it's that easy to do these sort of things. Our old GIS, it was real cumbersome to try to search and to find something. And with these new maps, it's going to be a lot easier. We have different maps created right now for the public, things such as load restrictions, which are on and enforced at this time. And then a new map that we're working on right now will be our road closures map. So for instance, on April 9th, this stretch of 4th Avenue is going to close for the flood control project for a week. So you'll be able to click on that, get the information, when it starts, when it ends, and then this is the detour route. So we're trying to get as much of that information out as we can, not only for our first responders who need this information, but just for the general public trying to get to and from work. We would be happy to hear any feedback or input, not necessarily today if you have it, great, but we can make just about anything as long as we have the data. If the police department, for instance, wanted to know where all of the breaking and enterings are in the city, if we have that data, we can heat map it, and that can help them search for those sort of things and prioritize areas. If same thing with the fire department, if they're having a lot of fire-related issues in a certain part of town, we can help people find those issues and then solve them with data. So if you as aldermen are having some related issues that you'd like us to help investigate and get some data for you, these are the tools that we want to start using for communication and for data analysis. Be happy to take any questions you have.
Alderman Sitma.
Thank you, Mr. President. Lance, I think it goes without saying, of course, even being the floodplain flood map administrator and getting several phone calls on this a day, are we going to be able, or will we be doing the same thing with our flood maps, not only today, but when we get that information on when those proposed changes are going to come to a specific icon, just like we saw with road construction?
Mr. President, Alderman Sitma, we will. In fact, the maps that FEMA created are based on this Esri software, so now we have those abilities too.
Thank you.
Alderman Padrigula.
I am really excited about this, and this has answered questions I've had for years. The one specific story I want to say and how this has already answered it was occasionally I get questions from constituents about, why is such and such a road closed? How long will it be closed for? And in the past, when I've asked city staff, they've given me answers, and I've raised the issue of, could we have a regular update on this? And that's where the reality kind of hit. The unfortunate reality was I was told there was something like 32 or 34 street closures projects ongoing at any given time during the construction season, and we just didn't have the staff because we didn't have the money to keep an update on this. And now, rather than spending staff time typing things out or sending things or putting out some sort of newsletter, we can look at it ourselves. So this is already answering questions that I've had for several years, and I think it'll make it much easier for us. Obviously, it'll make it much easier for you, and I think it'll be much, much easier for city staff. And I think this, for city residents. And I think this as a way around the dilemmas we've had in the past of having no management systems, no data systems, put it that way. And instead of having to spend money on staff and print things and send things around and email them, it's going to be there for all of us to use as needed. So I see this as a quantum leap, actually, in terms of the quality of information we'll have and its accessibility and the transparency of government operations. So I am super excited and want to compliment you and your staff about this development. This is just wonderful.
City Manager.
Thank you, President Janser. And, kind of just expanding off of what Alderman Padrigula said, when Mr. Meyer and I talked about this some time ago, he and I were, to my delight, very aligned in the vision that we had with regard to this. This is a major administrative initiative that I wanted to see. Mr. Meyer was already working on this, so he has done an excellent job thinking through ahead of time and trying to provide a platform by which this data could be easily accessible. We've also talked about its expanded use, including things like deployment of certain types of staff resources, for example. I know in the city that I worked in prior, we used to, as he mentioned, heat map the crime statistics, and so we knew what kinds of officers to place in certain areas on a predictive front. We knew what kind of speeding areas that we were getting based on the tickets that were being supplied to us, where additional patrols needed to be, where certain safety issues or concerns were. You have to understand that geographic information system analysis is not just producing a map and having everybody look at that map. We can actually use the information to predictively deploy and respond on an administrative front, on a patrolling front, on a maintenance front, on any sort of front. But I will caution the council that being a data-informed organization is while extremely beneficial and a best management practice for municipalities, it does take resources. And so the more information we try to gather, the more information we try to churn, the more information we try to utilize, while that will ultimately develop efficiencies for us as an organization, we will have to commit resources to it. Things like software upgrades or maintenance, costs for upgrades in the software and so on and so forth. So just wanted to caution you that this does come with a cost over time, depending upon how much we use it, but the efficiencies that can be gained, the smart improvements that can be utilized are astronomical. And I would just want to thank publicly Mr. Meyer for his forethought and vision on this, because it's an outstanding best management practice.
Alderman Sitma.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick question on, does this work compatibly with the tracking software that we currently have within our snow removal equipment?
It can. And I don't know if it is just yet, but we do have a map that you can track where the vehicles are. But I don't know if it's hooked up to this particular map. That might be a question for Mr. Meyer.
It's actually the Director of Public Works might be able to answer it better, but I believe their software, it's based on the same mapping technology, but it's probably proprietary to their equipment.
Yeah, the Razor tracking system, which is what we use, as I understand, is very similar in its use. But for example, the police chief and I were just talking, we're going to be bringing in GPS locates for all of the patrol cars. We'll be able to put that on a map, and when we have a crime or a need for the patrol or for the dispatch of an officer, the dispatch folks can be able to pull up the information to find out which officer is in closest proximity instead of trying to find that out on the fly, saving time and also not overly deploying resources to any particular incident.
Mr. Mayor.
Just a follow-up to Mr. Berry's comments. That won't be accessible to the public, though, will it?
No, sir.
Right.
Alderman Wolski, did you have a comment?
Yes, I do, President Janser. Speaking to a couple of these things in a couple different ways. One, Lance, as an integration that maybe is worth exploring. Obviously, I greatly appreciate Mr. Sitma's comment in terms of speaking to the merger between the Razor tracking system and this system. The more we can bring these different platforms together under one, we're going to see a lot more adoption from people, from citizens. Speaking to that same idea, when I previously lived in Charleston, their GIS system was also integrated with their property tax records and assessment records, which was, speaking from a citizen's perspective at that point in my life, was very convenient. And I appreciated having that. So I don't know if that's an integration we're planning or is already in the works, but I think that would be great. As we get to these resource questions, maybe it's worth talking and putting this issue onto our next liaison meeting agenda, because I know the county also operates their own GIS system. I don't know how well ours integrates with theirs, but maybe there's an opportunity to capture some resources that we're perhaps paying for twice and get all of these systems holistically working together. My final comment, Mr. Hackett, I know you're back there somewhere, but this little moment in this discussion strikes me as a very good YouTube video to cut out and deliver itself as some of the steps the city's taking to improve the way we do things.
Okay.
That was high-tech.
Mr. President.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Any further? Mr. Meyer.
Sorry. To Alderman Wolski's point, we did try to partner with the county. They run the exact same software that we have. The problem being, we're now on an enterprise version, which means basically everybody in city staff can use it. They're on a somewhat smaller platform. It's an online version only. And also because we are separate political subs, the organization structure with Esri would not allow us to combine. We've already looked at that, so we have to be separate, unfortunately. Okay. But we do share data. So they share their parcel information and likewise, so there is that link.
Okay. Good work. Any further questions for the city engineer? All right. Did you have anything further, Lance?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much. That